Welcome to Squatch and Holler. Please like and subscribe.
And hit that bell.
Hey, everybody, how's it going?
Howdy, y'all.
Hey,
We made
Amanda.
it.
Y'all keep your fingers crossed. Had to reboot, and my signal is acting crazy. But anyway,
We're gonna blame it on the weather, Roger.
yeah, it's bad here. It kind of went by, and rained on us a pretty good bit, a lot of lightning. But y'all got hail, didn't you?
Yeah, I was getting set up in here, and not even 20 minutes ago, we had some pea-sized, gravel-sized hail come through real quick. I sent you pictures of it.
Yeah.
I got a
Yeah.
tin roof here at the house, and boy, it sounded like somebody's throwing rocks at me.
That
Thankfully,
must
it
have
wasn't
sounded.
Bigfoot. It was just hail, I promise.
Hey, everybody, thanks for coming in. I've been looking forward to this one for a while, and I'm gonna give a quick rundown why. I can bring Debbie and Patrick on. Hold on. First, hey y'all.
Hey, what's up?
Thank y'all so much. We appreciate y'all coming in. I feel connected, y'all, because of some accident that happened, and I'll tell everybody. There's a lot of new people here, so when I say a bunch of people started sending me messages when I put the video up, Debbie was one of the first ones, and I don't remember. There was others too, but I had seen you on another show, and you and Larry, and I kind of have my mind blown because you were talking to like everybody always does, like I already knew, and I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? And you started sending pictures. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the same. Those are the same tracks I found. And it was 3 years prior, I think.
I don't
Maybe.
remember. I don't remember how long in between.
Y'all's was 2020, right?
Gosh, I don't remember.
Something like
right.
that.
Yeah, it was October 31st, November 1st.
And so
Was it 2020 though, Patrick?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we found them the week of Thanksgiving 2023 in the same spot. So as Debbie put it, it kind of confirmed.
Yeah.
You know what you guys did and found and preserved is amazing, but having this happy little accident like Bob Ross always said of us going up there and finding them in the same spot, I had no idea. So everybody, thank y'all for coming in. We've got 40 something in already, and I'm hopeful more come in, but we appreciate everybody. So
Absolutely.
So quickly, in 2023, we had woodwalkers, and they were talking about a meet and greet. I never had done that. I was new to everybody, and so they told me the location. So Heather and we grabbed the dog, and one day, we're 2.5 hours away. We took off without knowing anything about the area, in Kentucky, and so we went up there, and I just saw this sign, and I just whipped in there, not knowing. And it hadn't rained in 2 months. It rained the night before. And so the bay was like hardly any water. There's a little sliver of water right down the middle. And if I remember correctly, the water was low the day y'all were there too, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So when I, from 80 yards away, I see these impressions in the mud, y'all, 80 yards away. And I turned to Heather. I said, "Are those tracks?" and she can't see. So here I go with my poor man's GoPro, and I've got a little video where she's videoing me heading out there like an idiot. And when I get there, I'm like, uh-oh, because one of the first ones I see is the big one. And I don't know if you can hear it. Larry said before, Debbie, and when I did the interview with them, that I get chatty when I get nervous. And so I'm
Who
talking.
you? Never.
Yeah, and I'm trying to calm myself down, really.
I wouldn't call it nervousness, maybe excitement.
All of that.
Mhm.
Yep, all of
Yeah.
that.
That's a
And
good word for
it is.
I
And so when I'm running my mouth, I'm actually trying to document, and so I can remember too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I get the big track, and I'm showing it on live, the video, and some people screenshot it for me, and then I draw the red circle, but you can see it. It's really pretty. But there was the small tracks and the other the smaller one than the middle sized one. And that's when it caused this flood of people like, oh my God, that looks like the Reed Noble Trackway. I'm like, I don't know what that is. So it brought us all together, and I appreciate the evidence so much. And Amanda gets this all the time. We all get it. Where's the evidence? It's out there. So we're going to do our part to redirect them back to the documentary. I got people. Yeah, I know I'm nervous a lot, Blackie. I talk too much, but we're gonna try to redirect. Some of y'all, Gary, some of y'all that have the link to the Sawdust Beast. It's about 30 minutes. That's very, very good. Well done. Has the whole thing. But we wanted to talk with you guys just to kind of walk through that day. Amanda hasn't heard the story. She watched the.
Yeah, I haven't. I watched your documentary earlier with Sawdust Beast, and it was pretty fascinating how all that transpired. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to hear it all firsthand how all that happened.
And what's amazing is the teamwork.
Yeah.
Everybody had a strength. Everybody had things they could do. And I hope Gary does all this for free, y'all. So Gary, every now and then,
Thanks,
if you could
Gary.
post that, Gary's awesome. Gary, if I had an award to give for Moderator of the Year, and I think a lot of us shows could give it to you like every year, but thank you for what you do, sir, and everybody else that helps.
Put these back on.
But anyway, we'll
Can't
start.
see anything without my glasses right now.
You're good. Hey, Debbie, you know how we are. We sitting on the back porch talking. We ain't worried about it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I'm on my
that was more
phone.
for the viewers so that they can know to look for that comment that has the link to y'all's documentary.
All right. And Patrick,
Yeah.
so tell us what y'all were doing and kind of how this got started.
Well, I got there early, like on a Wednesday, and it was like 2 a.m, and it was raining, and the only campers were there was Mark and Shelly and one other camper at the very end at the turnaround where you go up and look over the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just backed up in a spot there and slept in the truck. I couldn't see a foot. It was so dark. But anyway, the next day I went down and met Shelly and Mark. You know, I'd watched some of the Beast videos and got interested and wanted to meet some of the people. And man, they just took you in like family.
Right.
And anyway, I got the bright idea of wanting to look for some arrowheads along the riverbank. And Shelly said she wanted to pick up some rocks. So that's what got us headed in that direction.
And that y'all and Debbie, did y'all get there the same day as they?
No.
Okay.
We got there the next day, I believe.
Okay. And I'm what when you got there, had they been found already?
Yeah.
How was the because I know when I saw the white wolf, I was shook up because and it was the other stuff that happened too, but Debbie kind of came to me and started interrogating me, which I loved it because it gave me a chance. She's popping questions at me and I'm answering, like because when something happens, you need to get that information out as quickly as possible. What was the
Yeah.
buzz like when y'all pulled in?
Well, it was honestly, it was very calm, and nobody knew anything had happened, and we had been there just a little while. I mean, I don't remember exactly how long we had been sitting there, and I was sitting next to Shelly, and Shelly's pretty soft spoken, and so she and I were just sitting kind of next to each other in our chairs, and where we were sitting in camp, you could look out like to my right, and through the trees you can see that bay area.
Mm-hmm.
And she she said, we went down there yesterday for a walk, and we found some tracks. And I said, you
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. When I told a few people we found tracks, they didn't even like, sure you did. You know?
I didn't say that though.
No, I know, but I had some people saying, oh yeah, and they just kind of shrugged it off. And I said, well, you better come look at these.
Well,
Did they
when
show
Shelly
up?
said
You
that,
think? Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. So did they happen to? The tracks? I'm assuming they were there prior to y'all's getting together there. So they were there prior to y'all getting together. Or did they show up like one of the nights you were there?
I think they were there already. Maybe
Okay.
some of them. I don't know. But it rained. I mean, it poured the rain when I was there. I mean,
how many nights were you there before Larry and I got there, Patrick?
I got there on a Wednesday night, so just one night, 2
Okay,
nights
so
maybe.
y'all had been there one night. Did you find them that first night that y'all got there?
No,
Was the
no,
next day that y'all went
yeah,
for a walk?
yeah,
Okay, and then we got there. Was it that same day, later in the afternoon
yeah. It
that we
was
got
later in the
there?
afternoon when people started stirring. More people were coming in.
Well,
Yeah, but
just
for
I'm not a professional tracker, but looking at the tracks, looks like they were made after the rain because they didn't have water in them and they didn't have any
right,
erosion either. So
Mhm.
they look
I
that's
clean.
told
right.
Shelly, I said, who in the world would be out here barefooted?
I said the same thing. Like
And
who would let their kids run
Yeah,
around out here in this barefoot
but
in November?
they were adult sized. The first ones we came up to were adult sized tracks, and I was like, who in the world would be out here? You couldn't get a boat up there.
Well, I want to show one, and for the people, I've got questions because I've been confused with the ones I found. There were two different shapes, kind of, right?
Mm.
were
But
they all the same size, Roger?
no, the big one looked like y'all's big one, and the medium sized one looks like this one I'm about to show now. And the
I have to put
smaller
my
ones, yeah,
glasses
I
on.
believe it was the same family, y'all. I mean,
It
when I saw
probably
these,
was,
Yeah, that was
because
one of
yeah,
my
it was.
questions, is if there was any similarities in what you found, Roger, and what you guys found.
100%.
I
Oh,
think there was
wow.
about three
That's what's
sets.
so freaking cool about it all.
Look, goosebumps. Look, because I
That's
I was excited, but I didn't cast them. I didn't have any. I got made fun of, but y'all, I'm standing out there, and then when I get back to the truck, Heather's had a rock thrown at her from, if you camped over there and y'all had that ridge,
yeah,
to the other side there,
yeah.
a rock came out of the woods. She said about the size of a golf ball and
That's
bounced
the
towards her.
that's the lot I pulled up in and stayed in that night. I couldn't see a foot.
And for y'all that I'm gonna vouch for him, and Debbie can too. There are no lights out there.
Oh
No,
no,
You turn the light off, you can't see nothing.
no.
The
yeah, it's
stars,
pitch black.
stuff,
Unless
yeah.
you have some sort of flashlight or candles or whatever, battery
Yep.
operated lights.
I
It's
tell you what,
pitch
I
black.
stuck a book between my legs. I said, if somebody taps on that window, it's going to be gone. That's how dark it was.
Well, so I want to show the mid-size one first, okay? All right. Now, y'all see the toes, and some people look at this and they'll be like, that ain't what a Bigfoot track looks like. Well, let me ask y'all this, because we found the same tracks 3 years later, almost to the day, the 3 weeks in between, being 3 years. They were the same shapes and sizes, pretty much. And do y'all think this was a Bigfoot or something else that was with the Bigfoot?
Like, what are you insinuating there?
Well, you know what the area is famous for.
Well, I don't
Oh,
think that's
gotcha.
what that
Yeah.
is. I don't think a dog foot would look like that.
Okay.
No.
I tell you
And
So
what,
this
I
one is
jumped up and down too, trying to make an impression, and I could not do it.
so this is the
uh,
one you found, right, Roger? Or is this
oh, this is theirs.
theirs? Okay. All right.
And
Well,
Yeah.
it's
that's
not
another
mine.
thing.
It's Patrick's and Shelley's.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Shelley's sick.
Well,
Yeah.
it
She
got
has.
to be everybody. After,
And,
I mean, we
Well,
found them, I
yeah.
guess, but everybody got involved.
and that's why I named the show "The People Who Preserved the Reed Noble Trackway," because y'all all as a team jumped in there and helped each other
Mhm.
out.
I gotta
That's
tell
right.
you, that was so awesome and so exciting to see that. Everybody was so excited about it.
Yeah.
And in some of those pictures that I sent you, you can see that whole place, the center part especially, was just covered with like the smaller ones. It's like the little ones went out into the really muddy part. Yeah.
Yes.
And it was
Yes.
covered. But the big ones, the great big ones, they stayed right along the edge.
We, goosebumps again. That's
I know.
exactly how. That's exactly how it was. The kids were running. Well, the smaller
Yeah.
ones were running back and forth through the water. What little water was there, and
Yeah.
the bigger ones stayed on the edge. Oh my
The only
God.
thing I regret,
So
I didn't
cool.
take any pictures of the piles of mussel shells
Mm.
that were
I
every little bit. Did you get some?
I took some of the mussel
Oh,
shells.
did you?
We
Oh
tried to
wow.
find
Cool.
like somebody that, because I don't know if everybody watching this knows or not, but when you went around the other side of the cove over there where the big footprints were at,
Yeah.
if we started, everybody, was going, not everybody, because at first everybody wasn't there. It was just a few of us. But those big footprints, they went around that side of the cove. That's the only side they were on. And on that side of the cove, it goes up a hill. And
Yeah.
it looked like the big ones, I think there was probably only one or two big ones at the most, but it looked like a single trackway to me for the big footprints.
Right.
Yeah.
And
We
they
didn't.
went on around. And when I forget who went around the back side of that cove, that's when they found this whole like muscles that had just been pried open.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so I got some of those mussel shells because I thought, okay, we're going to try to find some sort of scientist or somebody that might could get some, DNA off of them or something.
There was a
But
big old log laying there, probably
yeah,
2 foot thick. When I jumped over it, I told Shelly, I said, look at this track, holy mackerel.
Well, there's something I want to point out. Patrick said, check this picture out again. Do y'all see the where somebody stepped there close to it,
Yeah.
up to the right corner?
Yeah, you
That's
can
a full.
see
That's
the
a full.
imprints at the bottom of a mud boot or something, but it's
And
not very deep and
right.
definitely in comparison to whatever left
Right.
that.
So in
yeah,
my video, I put my foot beside the 14 incher, and I had a 12-inch boot, and at that time I was like 260 pounds or better, and I'm mashing down, trying to mash it down, and so it hadn't rained in 2 months, but it rained that around midnight. These things had come through, and then I'm right there within a few hours. I get about the same depth that you see here is all I could get. Now, whatever made that track right there weighed a lot.
It was
So
a heavy
Yeah.
one.
yeah, and here's one for size comparison. That's one of the smaller ones, right? The
yeah,
baby, yeah. And do you think there was more than one of those? Because there was like when I saw those, it's like they were running around.
yeah. I
They
think there
were,
was more than one out there. I mean,
yeah,
there were so many. Patrick, they looked like what, 100
Yeah. They
of those
just
little prints
zigzagged
out there,
around the whole area there.
that's crazy.
all
That
out there in the middle. But that's what was so interesting to me is the big ones were all along the edge, just like a mama or
Yes.
daddy
Mhm.
would
Yeah.
be over there, watching their kids play out there in the middle, and then saying, "Okay, y'all don't get too far off."
Yeah.
It
And
was
I don't want to get
it
my
was
feet too muddy, but
fascinating.
y'all go have fun.
That's right.
and we've never talked about this like this. And
Uh-uh.
so we really haven't compared stories, and that's exactly what it was. The bigger ones were focused and walking in a line, and the others were just running here and there.
Yeah.
And y'all, this is crazy. I mean, and you look at, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, where's the big one? So I'm gonna go ahead and show that one. I think I have, yeah, I know I do somewhere where you have the, um, well, yeah, there it is. This is where, who was measuring this here?
Oh, I think
Don't remember.
that's my hand.
Okay,
And
so,
I want you to look at the bottom of that foot first of all.
mm-hmm,
You could see it was different depths.
mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So like,
You can tell that just from this picture
and
alone,
you
which is
can see
crazy.
where the mid-tarsal break goes through there.
Now,
See where
Debbie,
right there by my hand?
this picture here, um, does more like talking to Greg and some of the talking about some of the footprints he found that flexed the other way. Now I have from what I've seen when I found tracks where they were in mud up on a hill and they cupped their feet.
Yeah.
I feel like their feet are flexible in a lot of different directions. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
looking at this here, you think about it, if it needed to climb a tree or something like that, having a flexible foot like that would grip.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. I've seen the toes when they step into the mud and they cup those toes and that. And I'm gonna tell you something else. That middle part there that runs, that's a little dip there below
Yeah.
the toes. That
Mhm.
okay. I saw a track one time where it stepped in the mud and it kind of cupped its toes to stop the sliding. This was a casted
Yeah.
footprint. Well, there was a big piece missing right there in the same spot at that angle, Debbie.
Yeah.
And I think because it flexed, those muscles pulled up, and the foot did the opposite of what it's doing here. So I don't know. I'm not an expert, but there's a lot of information right here. I think.
And also,
Mhm.
I think it's this print. It's either this one. This is the one that I made the mold out of. Because I when we got back, Larry and I ordered a whole bunch of, I forget what it's called, but you can put it around the cast because we
Mhm.
made cast of a lot of those prints out there, and we took one with us and made a mold out of it,
Hmm.
and so I spent, I don't know how long making. Gosh, Patrick, do you remember how many casts I made out of that
Oh, I don't
mold?
know. You gave one to everyone, I think,
I
there.
think there was like 27
And thank you
of
very
us
much.
there that ended up coming. And so I made a mold and poured, casted in that mold for every single person that was there that weekend that helped us, and gave everybody a cast of that print that was showing a while ago. And what was so cool about that one too, not only can you see the different padding on the foot or whatever you want to call it, the curvature of the foot and all of that, the mid-tarsal break, all that, but there's also in the print, it stepped on a little rock, the pinky, and so that shows up in the mold too.
Yeah, I have it.
Yeah.
Now, now, uh, I looked at this picture. I blew it up. The the toes. Am I crazy, or are there toenail prints?
I don't think there were any toenail prints at all.
Because it looks like if you see some of the toes, if you look extended up into the mud, it looks like there's
Yeah.
some area mashed down just a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
I don't know if there was any toenail prints. It would have to be coming out of the top of the toe into the tops
Right.
of the areas of the toes there. I don't recall seeing any of those. I know there's not any in the mold,
Okay.
but I don't. Not that I can recall.
That you know me, I'm I'm looking at everything because it's so amazing. And a lot of the stuff happens by accident. If I hadn't went that day, if I'd went the day before or the next day and it rained and filled up with water, we never would have seen this. And I was proud to be a part of it, just for Heather's sake, because I've seen one and I've seen other
Mhm.
tracks or whatever, and she didn't. After the rock was thrown, she didn't get out, but I had the video to show her, and was showing her exactly. She saw exactly where I went, and I explained it to her. Now in the video, you can hear me before I get there. I asked the question, "Do they have wolves here?" Because I saw one of the biggest canine tracks I've ever seen in my life. So I already was on edge, because it was halfway in between where the water should be
Mhm.
and where the water was. So it was away. It was headed in the same direction though, but it was back further away. So anyway, yeah,
What
Yeah.
I found it sorry. What I found interesting about that particular photo of that particular track is in some of the others, it was very human-esque foot shape, but that one is very triangular on the bottom, but then as it goes up into the toes, you can still see, a big toe and then it goes down, but they're almost all straight a line across the top there instead of, a shape like, how our toes kinda do, or
well,
Yeah.
that was
and
pretty
Heather,
interesting, and that shows the individual character of
yeah,
that particular individual.
well, and Heather, my foot, I have the Roman type with the longer. Oh, you'll hear my dog. The longer middle toe. Well, Heather has that shape with the slant. So, and that's what we've all been saying for years. They're I think they're individuals and they have
Yeah.
different traits. Just like we all do.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
There's. I think, like you said, I do think that they all have different traits because some of the prints that we've found before, in different places, I can't say, oh, it looks just like this other one that we found in a totally different
Mhm.
state. They all look different to me, just like our hands and feet, ourselves do.
I know
and
Exactly.
some
go
of the
ahead.
tracks I saw come out of Missouri, the toes were long,
Yeah.
like slender.
And Amanda, this is a little tidbit information. Debbie is with the Sisters of the Moon Group, and she grew up in
I saw that.
Falk,
Oh, you
Arkansas.
grew up in Oh, interesting.
I
Close.
didn't grow up in Falk. I grew up in Malta, Texas, which is about 30
Oh,
miles south of Falk.
close. Yeah.
Okay,
But I
still
grew
within
up.
general area.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had
Yeah.
cousins that lived there, and I was a little kid, and we played in Falk all the time. They lived in Falk, outside of Falk, just out in the country out there. And we played all the time. And back then, we had never heard the term Bigfoot. This was
Mhm.
in the 70s, and we didn't have
Yeah.
computers or anything, but we knew that there was supposedly, what we called the Falk monster. So
Mhm.
everybody in the area back then in the 60s and 70s and 80s even, that's all we ever called it was the Falk monster, and there was just one.
Right.
Yeah. Not a
And
whole bunch of them, just one, right?
just one.
Well,
And
and
So
see
so,
it.
somebody in the comments asked a good question a moment ago. It said, "Did any of the cast that was pulled that day, did they show any dermal ridges on any of them?"
not that I can remember seeing really,
Mhm.
because there was rocks in with the mud
Mhm.
and everything, and that shows what the ground was like and everything. You
Exactly. Yeah,
can
you got to have specific type of sand, mud, or dirt for that to really show up in detail.
And there was so much, like we had leaves on the ground also, and so we took what we had to work with to get like the leaves. Some of the prints even have leaf imprints in the print, but and you can see there's lines and stuff in some of them, but nothing that I would say, oh yeah, that's dermal ridges.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, that was one of the questions
And
that just popped up.
and this picture gives y'all a good idea. The water is supposed to be up to the woods line almost, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's. I mean, there was nothing there when I was that day. So,
Yeah.
um, and look, that time of year would be a good opportunity to go back.
Yeah, definitely. When was it that you went back? When you went there, Roger, and found yours? What time of year was it?
3 weeks later,
3 weeks.
3 years later. So it was third week in November. So
Okay.
talking to Mike Smith, I've asked him, have y'all seen Mike on Small Town Monsters? And he was on my show. Really good guy. He fishes in LB all the time and seen Bigfoot. I asked him about that, and he was talking about that time of year, pretty much always low. So I don't know if they let water out, and lower it, but
Yeah.
that's a perfect time if you're hungry and that's what you're doing. If you're gathering the mussels, and it's funny that they were they were down out of the water, but the others were, and it's the same thing. So are the kids gathering so to speak, or they reckon they're gathering them for them? I would do that. Hey, Peyton, pick that okra. I don't want to get, but
Yeah.
I don't know about y'all, but when I was growing up, the parents would always say, "Hey, you kids go pick all these sticks up. Whoever picks up the more sticks, y'all are the ones who get the candy bar when you're done," or something like that.
There was several piles of small mussels periodically.
See, and that's why we're having fun cutting up and showing all this, but this information is valuable, I think, to actually. That's why I want it back out there.
Yeah.
I accidentally found it, and I want to point people, that always say, "Where I want to see some evidence." Well, if you look at this and you watch that 30-minute documentary and you're still a skeptic, I don't know what we can do for you, because look at all these people. How many people were there that day, Debbie?
There was 20-something people that they weren't there the day that Patrick and Shelly found the trackway. We started arriving. They all got there first. Patrick and Shelly and I forget who all was there. Patrick, was it just you and Shelly when y'all found them?
Yeah, when I first got there, it was just me and her.
That's what I was thinking. And then everybody individually started rolling in later, the next day even. And the next day is, I think, when Larry and I got there. And we were, wasn't it, Patrick?
Yeah, I believe so.
I was thinking that. And so we were sitting there. We had just gotten to camp not even 30 minutes earlier. And I was sitting over there talking to Shelly, just she and I. And she was like, she's kind of, she's really soft spoken anyway. And she was like, she pointed over there to it. It was to our right if we were sitting this way. And she goes, Patrick and I took a walk around that cove and we found some prints. And I said, prints? And she goes, yeah, like tracks. And I go, what? And she goes, you want to go look? And I was like, well, yeah. And so we walk around, you have to go to the other side over there. And I was expecting like 2 prints, maybe, or 3 at the most, or even 1 would have been good. But when we're walking up and I'm looking out there, I'm literally like, I would not doubt it if my mouth did not drop down, my jaw open, just hanging. I was like, holy crap. And she goes, there's some big ones over there. And she points to the other side. She goes, there's some big ones that go down the side over there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Shelly. I'm like, we have got to cast these.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're like, I said, do you have any casting material? And she's like, no. And she goes, do you? And I go, no. And I'm like, we're really good Bigfooters, aren't we? We're professionals here.
Y'all had to drive several miles, didn't you, to get that?
I got on my cell phone and I started looking, and where we were at, we had a little bit of signal. And so I started looking and calling, because, there's only like one town south of LBL and one town north of LBL.
Mm-hmm.
And we couldn't find any place that had any. And I started calling further out away from, further past those towns, and found this hardware store. And I called them, and they were in Kentucky side. And I said, do you have any, any kind of casting material, even concrete? And they said, well, we've got something here. And I didn't tell them what it was for. So Shelly and I said, come on. And she and I got in our vehicle, and it took us 45 minutes to get to the hardware store. And we bought all of the casting material that they had in stock and mesh, the wire mesh stuff to cut. So because those tracks were big and
Mhm.
we weren't sure how much of the casting material, how far that would, last, how many prints it would actually
Right.
cast. So we thought, well, if we have to pour them thinner, then let's get some reinforcement wire to put in there to help keep them
Good
from
thinking.
breaking as
That
easily.
was very smart of y'all. I saw that in that little short of y'all earlier, and that was very smart. It's almost like
Well,
a makeshift rebar, more or less, I think is what they
yeah,
described it at, which
exactly.
is perfect.
I tell you what, though, I with the excitement the way it was after she told me, I mean, she was all hush hush, she was just whispering,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Woo, let's go cast some tracks." I was so
Well,
excited, but I'm surprised that I even thought about, that we thought of getting that for it. Luckily, we did, but we bought everything that they had that we could use to cast those tracks with, and then drove back and started pouring and going to work, and people were coming in for the get together because this was just going to be a get together. We didn't have any clue that any of this was going to happen. And so as more people began arriving, they started coming out there and helping. And that was so awesome.
well,
That
I
is
want to
Just,
awesome.
Yeah.
I want to show something. So I'm gonna show the juvenile track that y'all found. Then I'm gonna show a baby track that Peyton and I found in Bankhead National Forest.
Oh,
Then
this
I'm
ought to
gonna
be
show
interesting.
then I'm gonna show your big track that you casted. Then I'm gonna show the screenshot of the one I've caught on video. Okay. So
okay.
first off, I just for giggles, look at this track. Uh, yeah, probably a younger one. And you can see the same thing. You can see it's not even. It's got flexibility to it.
Mm-hmm.
You can
Can
see the
definitely
same
see an
thing.
arch in the foot for sure.
Right. And
Yeah.
you can see it doesn't look like our structure. But now this is a track that Peyton and I found um, behind the man cave. And it's little. Now
Yeah.
Wow.
that what was um, wild about this, the bigger tracks were there, but this looked like it might have been on the mama's back and set straight down because he didn't walk out of the woods with it. They just appeared all of a sudden beside each other.
Oh, that's
Mm.
cool.
So that
It has the little bitty heel, the narrow heel too.
and to me, I don't know. I don't know if this is a Bigfoot, baby Bigfoot or not, but they shouldn't have been there. And look at the depth.
Yeah.
Um, we were. It to me. Um, I think that 90% could be what we think they are. Now,
Mhm.
we're gonna show this one again, okay?
Okay.
And see the toes look like the size of marshmallows or bigger is what I
They
always
were
say.
big. Well,
So
if you
now,
can read the tape measure there, it'll probably tell you how big the toe was just by itself, the big toe.
yeah, almost 2 inches.
It looks like it says 14 inches from what I can see. It's kind of blurred, but I'd say the toe that it's next to has got to be at least 2 inches because it's
They
from the
were
12 to 14. So yeah, that's got to be
They
at least a
are.
2
They
inch.
are at
That's a
least
big
2
one.
inches long.
that those
That's
toes were
awesome.
huge.
Yeah.
And what's so funny is when she was before, when we first got there and we were sitting in camp. Is this one yours, Roger?
Roger, we can't hear you, buddy. Your mic's off.
I'm
There
sorry.
you
Thank
go.
you. Good,
You're
good
welcome.
That's
going.
good.
Good going, Amanda. She was watching the red here. If it's off, y'all scream at me.
Yeah, I could see your mouth moving, but nothing was coming out.
So yeah, this is off the screenshot of the video in the same place 3 years later. And I always said the toes look like as big as marshmallows.
Yeah.
Now the you can tell it's not really mud. It has all that sticks and everything in it, but it did show up good. And this
Yeah.
is the original, and you can't see it as well. But you
Yeah.
see there's a stick running through the middle, and you got the heel, and then you got the toes. But I didn't measure it, but it was big. So
Mhm.
I'm a fine Bigfooter too because I didn't get anything other than video.
That was
Uh,
cool.
but
That's better
Yes,
than
yes,
nothing, though.
Yeah, man, that was
structure
cool.
wise, that one's very similar to the other one.
and
Yeah.
on the video, y'all can go look at it's one of the LBO videos that I have. One of the first ones I did. You can see the ones that I put my feet beside that look like this one. Now it's not as deep, but it's deep, but it's shaped just like this. And that's what confused me was the difference in sizes, difference in not the sizes, but the shapes. So, um,
And the
but
stride was like 42 inches to each.
that's what I was going to
Wow.
ask you.
Yeah.
42
Yeah, because you
inches.
could see it was like and over there on the side, all the big ones, it was a perfect walkway. Or,
And
to us, it was perfect.
well,
And
no,
it
yeah,
walked pretty well in a straight line also.
y'all, y'all sent me that picture, and I don't think because the pictures are so small here. Yeah, wait a minute, I do have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
you
in the
got
picture, you can't tell. They look closer together on the
right,
picture, but they're not.
right,
Yeah.
and you got a right, left, and
Hmm.
you got the little ones, and y'all can see they casted the better ones, but you can see
Yeah.
the little ones back here.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
Since
I
we had
noticed
limited amounts
right,
of the casting material, the concrete and all that to use, we had to pick out what we thought were the best ones.
exactly.
Hmm.
And so, but
Yep.
we still
Terry
got
got
a
a really
lot of
good
them.
one out
What
the
I think
very
is
end.
interesting. Oh, go ahead, Mr.
Oh
Patrick.
no,
Sorry.
that's okay. No.
What I thought was interesting, just looking at that picture, Roger, and I noticed that as well in the little film, is that the baby ones there with the adult ones, the adults are running straight, but the baby ones are going in all kinds of different directions. So it's not like somebody just went and made fake footprints.
Right.
They're all going in one general direction. There's active movement to it as you're going
Exactly.
Yeah.
along, so you can see all of that in it. And that's really cool.
And there's a little. That's what she's talking about, y'all. Even like in the Bankhead tracks, I saw the impressions, but they were full of leaves. So
Yeah.
uh, the leaves will block the. I used to fingerprint at the jail when I was young, so we had to be trained how to fingerprint. And if you have anything like this, it's gonna mess that up. So, um, but yeah, that's amazing. The depth and people. I don't think people appreciate that enough because but when you get a chance to stand beside that yourself and see other people that weigh more than you do stand beside that and they barely make an impression, then
Yeah.
that's valuable information also because you're stepping on the same material and so, that probably had to weigh 4 times as much as anybody that was out there.
I
I
know
would
Mhm.
that
think.
while we were out there casting the prints, it was still relatively soft. And we don't know how long they had been there, but obviously long enough for, the leaves to fall and fall in there. But we
Mhm.
weren't making any kind of impressions, anything like those.
No, I tried.
And Roger, do you have that one print where it's a little one in front of a big one? And to me, it looks like I just envisioned a little Bigfoot reaching up saying, "Pick me up, mama," or "Pick me up,
That's
daddy."
exactly what I saw when
Yeah.
I looked at that as
I
well.
guess I guess it was a girl thing.
Right, exactly.
But that's my favorite out of all of them.
I don't know if I have that one. Let me run through and
I can't remember what all I sent you.
I'll show. And you probably did. I probably missed one.
Or
So
it
this
might not have even come through.
and this is the group. And I thought this was pretty genius using the
Yeah, we bought
red,
cookie sheets.
yeah, the cookie
Yeah, that
sheet,
was a pretty genius idea.
and that way y'all the other side that they're on. I was 80 yards from the tracks, and you're talking double that distance to the other side. You're talking almost 200 yards across there. I would think.
Yeah, it's a pretty good
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So walking, and y'all probably had if the water was a little higher, y'all probably had to go all the way around the backside and come back because you couldn't
Well,
walk
the
straight through.
the water didn't go all the way up. It was down. It was closer out towards the river.
Okay.
So the whole inside of the cove was soft because that's where all the little prints were. But it
Another
wasn't didn't have a whole lot of water in it.
another cool thing, they don't avoid the sticks. I mean, if people are walking, they're not going to step on sticks and
Right.
rocks. They're going to try to maneuver around that stuff. A lot of those tracks have sticks in them, like it was nothing to walk on.
Yeah.
Well, especially like barefooted. That's what I thought. Because when you go into something like that, we're going to get away from the pictures so I can see chat now. That was awesome, though. Thank y'all for not sharing with me, sharing with everybody else. That's
Thank
what we're
you.
doing.
This is fascinating.
It
So,
was a really good time.
oh
It's
man,
exciting.
Yeah, great
and
time.
who would have thought? I mean, Amanda, the flood of messages after that live show I did and showed the video. I'm like, what's
Oh
going
yeah.
on? I'm like, what's going on? Debbie was like, yeah, that looks like the same ones, or that's the same spot. I don't know
When
what
I
you're talking
saw
about.
that, I got so excited. I was
I
like,
can
oh
imagine.
my.
I mean, it looks exactly like y'all's that was found.
I mean, that is some awesome confirmation. And if it was,
Exactly.
we even took into consideration that it might have been somebody out there with, how they'll say they've got the fake stomping prints and they'll go around trying to
Mhm.
make prints and stuff. I thought, okay, what are the odds that somebody else is going to go out there and do it 3 years later? But
Exactly.
to make
Well,
that many, I think if it was going to be a hoax, there would have just been a few out there, I
yeah,
don't think they're going to run around all different directions making fake footprints, in the cove.
Exactly. What's been so fascinating about those long trackways like that, whenever you're able to cast multiple ones out of it, you're
Hmm.
able to debunk it being faked because you have the foot morphology, if you want to use some fancy terms
Exactly.
here, to see where it was going in one direction, but it didn't go back in another. Like, how would you would have to
Right.
step if you were faking a print, you'd have to step in that exact same impression, which would still deform it that way to show that that was how the foot was moving and doing that.
and
So
Exactly.
Patrick
having that to show those that direction shows that it wasn't faked.
and Patrick, you mentioned the log that was laying out there. Didn't I see in the documentary where it went around the log? It didn't. If you're going to fake
Yeah,
something, who's going to
yeah,
think of that detail?
yeah.
Yeah.
It was a big log, probably 2 foot thick. Big old tree. It fell out there or washed in or something.
Well, y'all, and I'm glad we had this talk because sharing the little details that I only knew and hadn't really talked about, and that y'all only knew and hadn't really talked about. The little details about the small tracks and what they were doing and what the big track. It's we haven't talked about this, have we, at all? So that was a surprise to me. I got goosebumps twice early on when y'all were mentioning things,
It's
but
just the coolest thing, isn't it?
it is.
Just confirmation.
And the thing is,
Yes.
we don't know each other. Well, we do now because we've
Yeah,
Debbie.
but back then we didn't.
No, and Debbie's she's like super sleuth. I mean, I felt like I was in an interrogation room. But
Plus, that whole area's got a history.
oh yeah, yeah,
So,
and Patrick, where we were camping. Debbie, y'all were straight across from us, up in the other woods line. And Patrick, where were you that night in that line? Where was your camp at? When I was there, you remember?
I was up under that cedar tree.
Okay, down at the entrance. So you're close to
pretty
Gary
close.
then.
Yeah,
Close to Gary.
yeah.
And
Right
and
where
did
you go up the hill to that cemetery.
did you, Debbie? I'm asking you too. Did y'all hear that one night that thing walking through the woods and came up behind our tent and everybody was saying like, "What is that? What is that? Get the thermals out." Gary heard it. Billy heard it. Of course, it got like right on our tent almost, and it would have come past you, Patrick. Maybe it might have come around that little knob there at the bathroom. But
Was that the night that there was one night that a big cat came through there?
was
Ooh,
it?
creepy.
I didn't
Yeah,
know. I
one
didn't
night,
know.
if I remember
There was
correctly.
a bobcat up behind your all's tent there at one night.
See,
Yeah.
nobody told me that. Was
Then
that
we
after I
had it on
left?
thermal.
Okay. Now I went to the cabin. We had a cabin just in case, and it got so cold, and we weren't prepared at all. We stayed as long as we could, and we would come back. But
It
that's
was
why
cold.
it was cold. I mean,
Is
We
that the
call it
meat and freeze that
the
everybody's
meat and
talking
freeze.
about it? Yeah.
well,
It
My buddy
was.
wasn't as
John
cold as
from
that one.
Missouri, he was stuffed in my little tent. Man, I had a buddy heater in there and caught my sleeping bag on fire.
Oh my gosh.
I
I
didn't
said,
know
if you
about
keep
that,
snoring,
Patrick.
dude, I had a pack of Oscar Mayer hot dogs. I said, every time you open your mouth, I'm going to drop one in.
No, that was a lot of fun. I
It
mean,
was.
I was glad to finally meet everybody in person. But y'all, um, it's pretty amazing to me. The wave of new Bigfooters that come in every 6 months or so, and they have all the same questions, and I understand it because people have their own experiences, and then they start to try to find answers, or they see something on YouTube or a movie that they question. And
Mhm.
I just wanted to get this out there, and so I've got it scrolling. The Reed Noble Trackway Sawdust Beast. That's all. You can type that in on YouTube, and the
Mhm.
link you can go back and watch the chat. The link has been in several times, but go watch it. It's very well done. There's a lot of information in there we hadn't talked about, but what I want to ask is like that's like scoring a touchdown in the Super Bowl, so to speak. So when you go Bigfooting now, either one of you, it'd be hard to top that. Now I know Debbie's seen one more, at least one. And Patrick, have you ever had anything that's topped that moment for you?
No, we did hear some yell vocals, but no, nothing like that. I
And
mean, I've found tree arches that might have been, or
yeah, but
structures.
but
But
like I put in my post, Patrick, if somebody roughed me up and I didn't make it, and they found your shoe prints and your fingerprints everywhere,
yeah,
that's enough evidence. You might be in trouble, even if you didn't do nothing other than try to help me. So having these tracks the way they are, and then I don't want to take credit. Mine was stupid blind luck. We just had to pull in a spot and in the right time, right place, right time, and saw it. But the stories match it. They match up. The what we think they might have been doing.
the
Uh,
best thing out of all this is all the people and family that have come together and became friends
Yep.
and had ventured out. I mean, that's what it was all about.
Yep.
And
Yeah, I
it's such a
agree.
great thing. I mean, I love all
And
my Bigfoot family.
it was so cool too because we were all working together, so, contributing in any way we could. I was down there casting prints and getting filthy and everything, but there were people that were bringing those cookie sheets and cake pans and stuff. And when we pulled them out after they had dried, as much, they were putting them on the cake pans and carrying them back over, to back and forth. And it was almost like a conveyor belt line.
Yeah,
A true team effort for
It
sure.
we got
really
Bama on
was.
it. He treated it like a crime scene.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bama
Yeah,
Murdoch,
he
who
took
is
his experience and
he's a ex police officer or retired police. I don't know how you word it, but
Yeah.
so he went through, and we had gloves, even the plastic gloves, because
Mhm.
we didn't want to get any of our DNA if possible on there. And
Mhm.
yeah, it
Yeah,
was
you
awesome.
were talking about
And
trying to collect some of the environmental DNA and some of that,
hmm
which would be really fascinating. And y'all mentioned earlier about the little mollusk shells out there.
yeah,
I didn't remember if that was mentioned or not, but that's interesting to know that there's
and
their
they're
food
they're
source
not
we're looking
little.
for.
They're big.
Oh, cool.
They're big shells.
That's
Like
cool. All I've ever seen down here is the little itty bitty ones. So
no, these were the big ones. They're like as like how I've got it right there. They're at least
Uh-huh.
that big. I've got one. I kept one of them, and I keep it in my bathroom, and I put my earrings in there.
Hey, it worked.
Well, and y'all, the new people that'll see this that don't know anybody here, that I hope that's who we reach. Um,
Hmm.
the people that were there that I've met, there's they're Bigfooters, so to speak, but they'll also ask you the tough questions, and they're gonna ask the questions that need to be asked. Because Larry, Debbie, he said on the show when we did our show together, he was skeptical at first
Yeah.
because he's like Patrick was saying, like, yeah, whatever, and then he went over there and was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Larry's laid
I was.
back anyway, so
Yeah, he's funny. I love
yeah.
Larry.
He is. He's a mess. But yeah, I mean,
Anybody?
you have to be skeptical. You can't go in being 100% from the
Right.
beginning, because
Hmm.
unfortunately there are a lot of hoaxers out
Oh
there in this
yeah,
world.
unfortunately there
Hmm.
is.
Yeah, and so we looked, and we all went in there with a skeptical eye, but after looking at them, and especially when you could see the different contours of the foot in the mud, I mean, and they were just the size of these things. It
Yeah.
wasn't a wooden footprint like somebody would make. If
Hmm.
somebody purposely made these, they went to a lot of time and effort.
Hmm.
And
And
And we didn't go over there looking for tracks.
yeah,
We were just I was looking for arrowheads washing out of the bank,
right.
and Shelly wanted some rocks, so we just stumbled up on it.
And
That's awesome.
I visited during the winter on a whim. And what I was doing was they were talking about the meet and greet coming up in April. So I'm like, hey, let's go check the area out. And I believe, if I'm correct, this area is one or two driveways before the one we camped at, right?
I don't
Where everybody
remember.
found the
Yeah,
tracks.
yeah,
It
yeah.
first. So I saw it first, and I whipped in there. There was nobody there. There were no vehicles. There was nothing. So
Yeah,
for somebody to go do that and take just on a chance that somebody's gonna roll up in there in the wintertime by
Yeah.
themselves, I mean, and that's another thing. If any of you go camping in Bankhead National Forest, LBL, any of these places don't have signal, you better carry two vehicles
Hmm.
because I was nervous because we'd had a flat, especially
yeah,
after finding the tracks. I'm like, if I have truck issues and no signal, we're in trouble because I have to walk out. But anyway, yeah, it's just to me, I guess I'm more uh I don't know, I get more excited than some people, and for that series of accidents on our side to line up with what happened to you guys is, to me, is Amanda, what is Ashley
Synchronicity.
Ashley, it says
I
always
was about
brings
to
up.
bring that up too. Yes, you're calling it our fancy S word,
Yeah,
synchronicity.
I can't spell it. I can say it kind of,
Yeah,
but and it
it's
brought
totally
on.
synchronicity because what they found ended up sinking into what you ended up finding, which then in turn made the connection between you guys,
yeah,
and now here we are today.
exactly.
Heather said, "I'd go and get help for you." Yeah, she, I'd go and get help for you when I left the truck to film the tracks. The windows were down and the doors were unlocked. When I got back, the windows were up, the doors were locked. I didn't even have keys to get in, and I said,
She just
I,
left you
I,
with it.
I know how that's going to go. I said, she was telling me when the rock was thrown. I said that would have been a good time to blow the horn to kind of let me know because I didn't have my phone with me, and I've always got my phone. What is up with this stuff where we decide to do something that we normally don't do, and something happens? If I'd had my
Mhm.
phone, I could have got pictures. I could have put my hand down there. I could have put
Yeah,
my anything. I didn't have it with me, and I was so scared. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was shook up. I done seen one of the biggest wolf canine tracks I've ever seen in my life, and then I see these things, and it took everything in me, y'all. I almost just left, but I said, no. If you're going to do this, if you're going to call yourself an investigator or whatever, you need to get this documented as good as you can with this video. So I went up and I came back down, and everything in me is telling me to leave. I fought it, but it didn't take me long to get back to the truck. We'll just put it that way. I wasn't hanging around looking at any rocks or airheads.
Well, you don't hear too many people getting chased down.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the times that we've had aggressiveness, we were pushing it a little bit, or we were wearing out our welcome. I've heard a lot. This made sense because I'm learning stuff after the fact. And you'll hear, y'all know this. Debbie probably knows this. Patrick, you know, y'all camp all the time. But I hear a lot of people say, well, you go and you stay in a place and you're camping out the first 2 or 3 days, pretty much you're okay a lot of times. But then after you stay a while, you're overstaying your welcome, things will start ramping up a little bit. Is that you find that's true, Debbie? Or I know y'all have had a lot of stuff happen.
It just depends, really. I couldn't say that yes or no, really. Yeah, we've had a lot of stuff happen, a lot of stuff we can't explain, a lot of stuff that definitely seems paranormal, but we're like, I wouldn't call it Bigfoot activity. Like this last time, it was me and Patty camping in Arkansas, and we didn't have a bit. I couldn't say there was anything Bigfoot related that happened while we were out there, but without going deep into it, I had stood up out of my chair, just kind of stretched, and I turned. She had been sitting next to me by the fire, and it was dark, but I stood up to stretch, and so I turned around to where I'm facing her, and we're surrounded by trees, of course, but these trees that were in my line of eyesight, um, these balls of light, not orbs. It was like if, gosh, I can't even do it. I'm holding my phone, but two trees there. It was solid trees out there, but these two trees were directly across from each other, and this ball of light appeared at the kind of my height on the inside of that tree, not inside the trunk, but on the inside. If these two trees were facing each other,
In
say
between the two trees, kind of.
yes, and I can't use my
Gotcha.
other hand or it would,
That's
'cause
why I
I'm
was trying to
holding the
help you
phone.
out.
Yeah, and so it was on the inside of each tree, but it hit this tree first on my left, and it was a perfect circle, but it was on the tree, almost like a light was if you shined a flashlight on the tree. But
Mm-hmm.
this was a huge tree, and it was a huge circle of light. But as soon as it hit that tree, it shot up the tree and went into the treetops, and then went across into the other tree that was to its right, my right,
Mm-hmm.
and it was in the treetops of that tree, and then went down the inside of that tree, and then moved to the front of the tree. And I mean, it was
Interesting.
just boom, 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 boom. And I was like, oh my God, Patty. I hollered at Patty, and
Yeah.
she turned and, she saw it all happening. I cannot explain that.
Was it electric white, or was it plasma type dull white?
No, it was a bright white light.
I've seen that happen before, and it's almost like it had a magnetic pull. Something was pulling it, and it was
I just,
bouncing.
how if you're holding a flashlight doing it,
Yeah,
that's what I thought. Okay. But this thing was massive.
like it was being
And I
drawn
was
from this
even,
tree, and like
I was
say it was
looking to,
here. Yeah,
yeah. And you know how, like, if you're using a big light and you're doing it yourself,
yeah,
especially if it's that bright, you can see that beam of light,
right.
coming through there. There was no beam of light.
Let me ask you this: so it was round. The one I saw was a little bigger than a beach ball, and when it was coming through the woods at first, it being round and emanating light in every direction, it made weird shadows because the light was shining up, down, sideways. Did you notice light coming off of it, or was it just kind of
No,
central?
I didn't see it like floating through the air or anything. I saw it on the outside of the tree, and then
Okay,
going up into the treetops and going over to the other tree and then coming back down.
when it got close to the tree, did it light up the side of the tree, or is it just
Yeah.
the light was right there in that orb?
No,
Hmm.
I didn't see an orb,
Okay, just a light. Okay,
just
I
a
got.
light on the tree, but it was a perfect circle on the tree.
Hmm.
And it was
Hmm.
big because these were
Interesting.
big. I know it's, and I
That's
told
cool.
Larry when I was telling him about it. Patty and I were looking around. I mean, there was nobody out there,
Right.
and it was so massive. And there should have, if it had been like a flashlight, somebody shining something that big, especially,
It's in
it
the
would have
beam.
lit up.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it was just weird. And I know that I've heard that the energy from trees sometimes will cause the lights and stuff to come up, but it was stopped. It was just on the side of the tree there for a few seconds, probably 5 seconds, and then it just shot straight up and then stayed up in the treetops and then shot over to that other tree. And I mean, it was not like anything I've ever experienced.
That is
Well,
interesting.
It was
when y'all
weird.
were you were camping there. Why were you camping there? Was it a place that you've had stuff happen before, Bigfoot wise, or you heard
No, we
about? Just
we had
picked it.
never been to this area before, uh, but there have been sightings, in that area. And I mean, it's Arkansas. There's a lot of sightings
Well,
in
y'all have a
Arkansas.
lot of what is that crystal that's underground? Y'all have a ton of what is that?
Quartz, probably.
Quartz. Yeah, y'all have a ton of quartz, don't you? In
I
Arkansas,
really,
I
I've
think you
never
do.
seen any really sticking up. I mean, I'm living in Tennessee. Larry
Yeah,
and I are there in Tennessee, but we're just north of Memphis area.
yeah.
And Patty is currently living in Arkansas. She's from Louisiana and I'm from Texas, and we were only an hour apart when we lived there. That's how we know each other. But
Mm.
so this area that we were in, we had never camped in before. This was our first time ever out there.
Well, Debbie, I'm all on board because I've had weird stuff happen, and I'm gonna let y'all know the Squatch and Holler family. Amanda is too. So we will be doing shows uh, about stuff like that because I think it's
I would
important.
love to do a quartz show because there's
Or,
so much that talks about that
Uh,
when it goes into other paranormal activity, cryptid activity, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of theories that go along with that.
there's
So
tons of quartz here in North Carolina.
and
here in
I just
North Georgia as well, like my whole yard has got it just because there's a quartz mine not too far down the road from here.
Where do you
so
live in North Georgia?
Gilmer County, J, Talking Rock, Blue Ridge,
Okay.
not
We
too far from the Tennessee border.
one of the Sisters of the Moon's number one location is in North Georgia.
You ever talk
Doesn't
to
surprise me
Cheryl
one
any,
bit.
Debbie?
What, Patrick?
You ever talk to Cheryl any?
I haven't talked to Cheryl in a long time.
He's in Georgia.
Yeah. Yeah, me and the girls had gone out there to our location probably, gosh, 4 times maybe. And finally, Larry and I had started dating and all of that. And Spencer and Mark and Larry, they came up. We had put this little plan together to where they were going to be on down from us because we were at the top of a mountain. And of course, they wind around. And
Hmm.
so we've got an area in our location there in Georgia to where you go to the very back and it just straight drops off. But if you
Sounds
curve
about right.
around, yeah, it's awesome. It's beautiful. But if you go on around without dropping off, of course, there's this huge open area that's surrounded by trees, just like where
Hmm.
we're at, but it's right next to us and it's a food plot.
That's
yeah.
why
And
I was
we
wondering
think,
if it was a food plot or not.
yeah, that's why we think our area there is so active with the Bigfoot. And
Hmm.
I mean, we've had rocks thrown at us from it drops off on all three sides. And we've had rocks being thrown at us from all three sides. I even went live on Facebook while we were there,
Mm.
and they were throwing rocks at us while we were
Wow.
sitting around the
Interesting.
fire. Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I want to go back now just talking
Have
about it.
Have you ever saw that big rock in Georgia, Amanda, with the petroglyphs on it?
I have not. I know that there's one in Track Rock area near Blairsville, part of Georgia, and then there's also one just as you go up into North Carolina there, the Judicala Rock. I want to go see
Yeah.
it. It's on my list to go to. But you were mentioning the rocks and stuff thrown at you. That's a good segue to the question we got here. Have any of y'all? What about infrasound? Does anybody get sick or side effects or anything? Um, as far as your times out there in the LBL.
I never have.
No.
Okay.
The y'all gonna get me in trouble. Was this a famous time where the sisters were burning firewood faster than Mark, Larry, and Spencer could cut it? Uh, I,
Yes.
I,
And it wasn't us. Um, Barbara and Sandy's niece lives. She lives somewhere not too far from there. I mean, she's a few hours away, but anytime we go up there, she'll come up there every once in a while. And so she was there, and she was the one. She doesn't get to camp a whole lot, and she's hilarious. But
I,
she was
I,
constantly putting wood on that fire.
well, when I met everybody there, I knew a lot of people, but I was comfortable because I knew Larry had a good sense of humor because he showed it. He shows it very little, but you can tell. So I was comfortable with him, and that's the way my family is. And I thought Jr. Misty's husband was going to kill me. They were over there cutting wood. They had the axe out, and Larry was showing everybody. And of course, he's a very strong individual, and
Yeah.
I couldn't have done that. And I'm over there watching him. And Jr. He hit a few times, and it didn't make any progress. He struck it. And I yelled out, "Hey, JR, hit it with a sharp end." I thought he was going to hit me with that. Everybody laughed. But everybody has a good sense of humor, too, though,
Yeah.
is what's
Oh,
awesome.
yeah.
Now, are y'all open to some questions about
Sure.
the Trackway or anything else?
Sure.
Do we have some, Amanda?
Let
I
me
see.
pull up here. So we asked the infrasound question. This looks like a just in general question, which I know that some of the answers to that. It says, has anybody found a track with a deformed toe? I don't know if you guys have, but I do know about the famous ones. I think it was either Dr. Krantz or Dr. Bendernagel who had the cripple foot cast. That's pretty
Yeah.
famous. I
Where
think that
was
was
that
back
one
in the
found?
60s or 70s that one was found. And yes, the foot is extremely deformed, and they even have pictures of it. You can look it up you can Google it, just the cripple foot, Bigfoot cast.
And
And it has pictures they've taken where they've actually drawn the bone structure over top of the impression of the foot. And you can actually see how the foot is either been smashed, like it got injured and then didn't form back right, or I've heard also theories that it was possibly a like a birth defect kind of thing.
is
So
that okay? So Freeman found one also, and I heard on a podcast that I think Freeman found, the one, of course, that had the footage.
mhm.
He's passed away now, but I think he had casted some tracks, and there was one that they called Cripplefoot, maybe. But there are also some researchers, like a few ridges away or mountains away, and they had tracks of the same individual with the same foot, and so
Mhm.
that's very hard to explain. If
Exactly. And
you
I
find
think
it a few years later with the
Cripplefoot
same
as well.
deformity.
Roger, have you ever used an RF meter?
No, I kind of would like to, but I don't want to invite. Some of that scares
Man,
me, y'all.
I got one. And Robin, I went out to see her in California. We were up at Mount Shasta. And
Oh, gracious.
we walked up this fire road, I don't know, maybe 2 miles. And the first thing I said, whatever you do, don't run.
Oh
Man,
my
that
gracious.
meter, we got up there and that meter pegged out
Wow.
and we heard a huff. And then everything just got quiet. Of course, we headed back down the road like two mice that just missed the trap.
And for us that don't know, what does that measure?
Radio frequency. Yeah. That thing pegged as far as it go. Was buzzing.
Interesting.
Yeah, she got it on video.
Now,
She actually recorded it.
now doesn't Barry Browning, doesn't he take equipment out like that with him?
I don't know. I
I'm
don't
not
know.
sure. Uh,
I
I'll have to
know
ask him.
some of those guys in Florida do.
But to me, I've asked some of the ghost hunters that have their groups, hey, have y'all ever had anything weird happen while y'all were out in the woods or whatever? And what's funny is, they could have things happen that if we were there, we would know what was going on. But if they're
Mhm.
not, before my eyes were open to a lot of this stuff was going on around me for years, and I had no idea.
I know Barry at LBL, they did a ghost box with Larry, and he got very upset about what happened.
Mm.
They were messing around out there by a cemetery.
That's the first time I've seen this name, I believe. Thank you for joining. And that is interesting. I think, crossover,
Yeah.
because a lot of people say, they talk about the graveyards and the Bigfoot, whatever connection that
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely some paranormal connections that they've made there in the LBL with all the like you said, with the graveyards, the towns that were abandoned because when they filled up the reservoir, which is
Yeah.
also very similar to a lot of other towns and stuff here in the further southeast. We have the TBA built so many dams and buried so many towns because of that.
Right.
And then there's all that ends up connecting into some kind of a thing with cryptids, because just think about it with deer or rats, or just insert any animal. If you're filling up something with water, it's going to try to get away from wherever it's going to get to the high spot. So if now the high spot is the LBL, then where else is it going to go?
Well, and that's interesting. Judy just brought up. So if you take some of this equipment and go to some of these structures we find and use it, so Patrick, with the RF meter, let's say we're out in the woods and there's nothing going on, and all of a sudden that spikes. What does that tell us? What would you?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Something's giving off some kind of frequency. They think Bigfoot, you hear them vibration, how they can blend in or disappear through frequency and vibration. So I don't really know.
Well,
that's just guesstimates for me.
Well, what I've started doing is looking at myself a lot, trying to figure out some things, and I've talked to people that are kind of like me, where people say empaths or you can feel energies or whatever. I can be in the woods. I mean, like I was in the woods opening day of deer season, and the pressure felt like it changed, and I got a buzzing in my right ear, and heard some heavy footfalls, and we had a weird day that day. There was no animals out, so I believe the more I look into the frequencies, I think the frequencies the evidence is there. We need to start looking at that. We need to start looking at the spectrums that we see in. I think a lot of us can, not me, but I believe some people can see a little different than others. I believe our brains are wired a little different. I don't know. I've always felt different from other people. And a lot of us that are doing some of this, and like Debbie's having that, what happened to her. Well, I'm drawn right in because I've had it happen to me. Heather, one of the first things she ever had weird happen was an orb, a plasma type thing that shouldn't have been there. I don't know what it was. 20 minutes worth of it. Now, here I am, a Bigfooter. I didn't film it, but I didn't have a show then. I was just getting into learning, So I've messed up more than I've helped everybody. So, but yeah, I
No,
think
you
that's
have
something.
not.
It seems like a lot of this stuff happens when you're unprepared anyway. I mean,
Yep. And look, y'all've heard more Bigfoot encounters than I have, and to me, what I've noticed is usually the Bigfoot encounter is a surprise to the human and a surprise to the Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, oh my God, what is that? And the Bigfoot's the same way. Like my buddy had almost
Yep.
hit the one in the Jeep. He said when he went by, his top was off and he looked up. It was at nighttime. And he said, I could see up his nostrils. It was right
Oh
there
my
in that ambient light. And he said it snarled like, oh no, I just got hit by a Jeep. You know what I mean? It said it had that look on its face and that flinch. So he's telling this story, and I go back to that spot in that story. I'm like, they're like us. I mean,
Mhm.
it thought it had gotten injured, and that's the natural reaction to flinch and pull away. So
It's like deer. You got
yeah,
50 miles of woods on each side of the road, but they're going to be in the road. I mean, it never fails.
well, and Patrick, y'all, hunters know that the deer will cross a road maybe on a rise or where the woods meet woods. If there's fields everywhere and there's woods and there's just a little bit of road there, they will cross in that area more likely than field to field if they can. And so when I'm driving a road at night I don't know, and I see that, I start mentally checking the size. But I think if the deer do that, then why wouldn't the Bigfoot do that also? So that's a good spot. It's good. When he was telling me this, we went up there and looked at it. It was a creek. It was a little bridge there, and it was a spot where there were fields and it was woods to woods. And I'm like, that makes sense. So
Mhm.
anyway, I'm not an expert. I just try to throw stuff against the wall, and talks like this to me are very valuable for all of us trying to figure things out. And there are no stupid questions. There are no stupid theories. I can say something dumb, and it might trigger Debbie like a memory, and it might help her put something together. So I'm all about it. I'll make a fool out of myself, try to break the ice or, whatever. So it's just, Debbie, how are you on time? We're at 1:21. It's
I probably need to go on back in.
okay. Well,
I'm in
thank
my
you for.
truck.
Well, we'll.
Yeah.
I knew she only had a limited amount of time.
Yeah.
It was awesome seeing you, Debbie.
You
Yeah.
too, all of y'all. And
You
it's
know I
nice
love
to
Yeah, it
you.
was a pleasure meeting you guys.
Yeah.
And we're going to end it right here. What I'm going to start doing, I'm going to try to stay under 2 hours so I can do replays. If I hit the 2 hour mark, then it confuses people because I have to trim the end of it, and everybody's like, it just stopped right in the middle.
Can I
But
give a shout out?
yeah, y'all do whatever you want to.
Thank
This is your show,
everybody in the
Patrick.
chat. You know I love you, and a shout out to my sister if you're watching. So
Yep.
appreciate being here.
Well, Debbie, you got to give a shout out to your lovely husband.
Well, hello, lovely husband.
You see what? Amanda, they're so funny. It's like
They are,
family.
yeah.
My
Tell
family
Uncle Larry I
jokes
said
all the
hello.
time.
Larry's the funny one.
He is.
But he don't talk like I talk too much. When he says something, it's hilarious. Trying
Yeah.
to stay under 2 hours. Amanda, you have any thoughts or any questions?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. No, thanks for sharing all those pictures. And like I said, finally seeing it for the first time, Roger's stuff and then y'all's together. And that is a truly fascinating synchronicity, as we called it earlier. And like I said, the fact that you guys were able to just stumble upon such amazing evidence the way y'all did and then be able to collect it. That's just so cool.
And,
Like Roger said at the beginning, people ask, where's the evidence? There
Yeah.
it is.
and I want to give props to all of y'all because you found some amazing evidence and you just shared it with the world.
Yeah.
If I find something, that's what I'm going to do. And I know a lot of people hope, and people are scared. Like I understand if somebody finds something in their backyard, it's like Greg says, I don't want people to come down here whooping and hollering and beating on trees and then leave me here with these things, have to deal with them. So thank y'all for telling your story. Thank you for coming on. And I know as we have new people come in, this is the type of story they need to hear. I believe.
Mhm.
I believe it's very important to research. Who knows? 10 years from now, somebody may find a similar thing in the.
You have to carry the
spot.
torch, Amanda.
I'm trying.
You do
I'm
a
lighting
good
some
job.
sparks anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
It's
doing.
awesome to have young people involved.
Well, thank
And
you.
I
That's
just-
what I hope to bring is a young new perspective. And Debbie, I'll just go and say it, bringing a female perspective into the
There you
show
go.
as well, because yeah, this subject is a fascinating phenomenon, and I think the more the answers and puzzle pieces that we can put together to this subject matter, the more we can figure out about a whole lot of other things. But then
And
at the
I
same time,
think-
the more answers you find, the more questions you get.
There you go. I was fixing to say that.
Everything's
Yep.
tied together. Everything's connected. We just don't.
Everything's connected. Yep.
All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Like
Have a
Greg
good
says,
night,
big love
everybody.
to
Thank you
everybody.
so much.
All right. Y'all have a great night. Anybody that
Night,
wants to stay,
footers.
Thanks, Roger.
anybody that wants to stay after, you're welcome to. See y'all later.
All right.
Bye.
Bigfoot caught on video.
What the crap? What was that? Did you see that? Yes. Holy crap. What the heck was that? That was on 2 feet, wasn't it? Yeah. Oh my goodness. Thought it was seeing things, actually. Oh my goodness. Please tell me we got that on audio, video.